Meeting will come to order at 5:01 p.m. Let's introduce ourselves.
Scott Morley, Select Board.
Eric Hemet, Select Board.
Dan Webster, Select Board.
Matt Maxwell, Town Administrator. In the back.
Renee Felkner, Animal Control.
Richard Hancock.
Chris Roy.
Larry Ruggles. Thank you, everybody. Any changes tonight, your additions? Public comment? Hey, you gonna go here or?
Sure. I mean,
Hi, Renee.
hey, how are you?
I'm great.
I'm here to defend the animal ordinance. Deb said there was possibly somebody who had some questions or wanted to contest it.
I'm
I'm not sure if that's the case.
not aware of that either.
Okay. So anyway, we have the domestic animal ordinance and we're ready to put it into effect next week.
Yep. Thank you for all the extra work you've been doing. I'm fully aware. I think we all are of all your extra effort. Thank you for communicating effectively with everybody that's possible. Thank you for dealing with the state police and the sheriff's department and the select board and the neighbors and the owner of the cows and everybody else that you have. I know how tough it is. I've seen a lot of it. And so, yeah, thank you. So we'll hopefully proceed to next week and we can have some detailed conversations. And we'll take the steps we need to take, keep everybody safe.
Yeah, in case anybody joins in the meeting after we discuss this, you know, just tell them to keep in mind that this is not to go after everybody that's got domestic animals. This is for the domestic animals that are causing a problem such as this.
Of course.
There was someone that called in and didn't want
Somebody
the ordinance to go
requested
through?
a voter checklist. Usually that means they're gonna have a petition.
Well, that's fine. I mean, they can.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, we'll have the conversation and continue to,
And my phone number is public. If
Yep.
you have questions, I mean.
Yep.
We know what we want to use this for,
yeah,
and it's not to just nitpick at everybody that's got chickens or whatever in the backyard.
right. Yeah. We'll all reread it 3-4 times this week and be ready and well versed.
So really quickly, while I was just reading through it, I actually had 5 minutes here to read through it, and for this particular case, I think section 6, part D, nuisance for damage to or interference with property, because the other one, the nuisance 2, running at large, says there has to be a first offense, a second offense, and then the third subsequent offense is when you can impound. But on section D, nuisance for damage to or interference with the property of another, first offense, warning or impoundment or $100 fine. So I think.
That's what I was starting to think through myself the
fair.
last few days, and Matt and I haven't really had perfect opportunity yet, but we will this week and talk
Yeah.
that through together.
I'm gonna go home and read this thoroughly front to
Same
back
here.
and know it, so I know
Yep.
it. So I wanna have all of our ducks in a row.
Yep.
So, and I think we've got our ducks about 99% in a row right now. So.
Hope we appreciate it.
We'll leave it at
Yeah.
that. So yeah, if anybody wants to ask me any questions, I'm happy to take phone calls.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah,
anytime.
thanks a lot.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Have a good
Nate.
meeting. You're welcome.
All right, Larry, you're up.
So I brought the 2 contracts that we talked about, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Want to have a seat? Or you
Sure, I
can?
can. All right, so. So basically, it's a standard contract for services based on what we talked about. The outline is using the state format. I don't know if you want to look at that, or you guys can look at that basically, and some of the details of have you guys looked at the grants and everything and see how that's all being? Yeah, so they're pretty vague in the scope of work on some of the stuff that needs to really happen, like up at the up here, they want to replace the doors, the overhead doors. But you gotta replace everything around them that's all damaged and everything like that, so. They had air sealing requirements, but they don't have any information on that. So we would go to whatever the code is, to those details, like encasing the columns inside because you got steel's convecting to the outside.
Right.
They don't recommend, I thought that they did, but they don't. I was rereading it. They don't recommend anything on the ceiling, but you've got air leakage on the ceilings up there. And that's, what that's doing is it's allowing the ice to build up on the roof, and that's what's causing the water. If we could stop the heat from going through there, we wouldn't have that problem. There's nothing wrong with the roof that I could see. So there's a priority in which these have to be done. Did you look at that?
It's been a little while, but we read them pretty good.
So, and I think what I've got to get after tonight from you guys, I started to create a scope. And then I thought, well, I really need to meet with you. Either it's at one of these meetings or a separate meeting, and you need to prioritize because there's probably not enough money in the grant to do everything you want to do, which is pretty typical with the way these grants all work. So,
So like up there, are you saying that like there's an energy audit?
yes,
And they missed some things, is that what you're?
they missed a lot of things.
Okay,
So, and that's pretty common, and that's how we got involved, is I met with Carter Finnegan. I went to East Haven and basically took that project on, and then she met me, and then that's how I got in touch with Matt, and we basically said, she said, would you take on some of these? And, you know, I'm almost 62 and I've been doing it 36 years, so I don't want to do a lot of them. But the Northeast Kingdom, we're willing to do. What we've got to do though is prioritize what you want to do. Now, there's a lot of work to that building down here.
well, that's a big priority.
Okay, these are the things that I'm gonna need to know. So envelope is priority based on Act 172 for all the buildings. And then it goes into the boilers, and then it's the lighting and mechanicals. Now, if you don't fuel switch, you can basically keep your boiler that you want or that you have if you're happy with it, and then go into a calibrating system and new controls for those boilers. So they give you some leeway, and then if there's questions, I can answer them, I think. But basically, they posted this on 5.5, which is the program questions, what you can use the money for, and what you can't use the money for, so. It's my job to kind of make sure that I follow this. So nobody gets in trouble, if you know what I mean.
And at the same time, doing what we want to do.
Well, and basically what they want to do is, you know, they want to tighten these buildings up if they can. There is in there you could request, if you had a new structure being tied to an existing, there's a process in there, and they are allowing some of those funds to be allocated towards that. So I don't know how much of this you want to go over tonight anymore, but I think initially we need to get things in motion, and then we need to meet and you know, garage doors and things like that, I can get going on. So I guess it's up to you how you want to proceed.
It was written like their suggestions for each building. Well,
Yes.
this building, if we're only gonna use it for like cold storage, we're not gonna wanna sink a ton of money in it.
I wouldn't think
So you can, so what if we skip that building? I'm not saying we are, but is that a thing? Can we do more to this building and the other garage versus?
So what I would do is call Carter, once we have a scope, and then I can tell her, this is what we've got, and this is what their priorities are. And how do I proceed in that? So obviously you do have a fair amount of work in this building. And it's a little more detailed than what they kind of pointed out in their, report there, so. You know, we gotta dig around the whole building and insulate it, and that's pretty common everywhere, they're doing that. So it's that connection, they did miss that though on the building up there.
And that's
Because-
a priority.
Well,
I mean,
I'm going to, so in this contract, what I did is I have Du Bois and King. And I have Don Welch Architecture, and I've contacted Du Bois and King, and they're on board with this. So basically, I can reach out to them and say, hey, you know, we need to take a second look at this, because you've got a slab on grade up there with insulation under it. And nowhere to stop the frost from around the whole perimeter of the building. So it would make no sense to go through and do all that work and not protect the outside of that building. In my opinion. So I would pose that question to them, and then, I'm pretty sure they would just say, okay, then let's do that. The key thing is documentation, and that's what we do really well. So it would be pictures, you get a copy of all the invoices, the slips, everything that goes into the project. You probably won't ever have to use it, but in case you were called out on it, on the grants, you'd have it. And that's what we do. So
so we need a priority list for you.
I started one, and then I said I need to meet with you guys and make sure our priorities are all aligning.
I think there wouldn't be a lot of disagreement with anything in this building we're sitting in,
Okay,
the work that we saw there.
that's ripping the boiler out, and putting the new one in.
No,
Okay,
no,
because that's in there.
I know.
Not that part.
Yeah, forget that.
But we could upgrade all the controls and still meet the requirements.
Right. Yeah, what else was on this building that we were,
The insulation around was on the
it was just really insulation, it was air,
Different lighting, which is minor.
some lighting issues. Then around the exterior that you're talking about.
ERVs, the ventilation system.
So the reason I'm asking that is, could we, you could get going on this building, and give
Yes.
us enough time to, a few weeks to do our homework again.
Yep,
You're gonna get us up to like an A on this, cause
what's that?
you're gonna get us up to a grade A on this, cause we're gonna have to read again.
Well,
Which is fine.
it's worth
we should.
reading, and I think reading that document right there is a pretty important one.
Okay. So what do you have for us to do you have a contract?
I have a
for us?
standard contract, that's a state standard contract.
Yeah.
It's their format, it's
Yeah.
basically written based on what I told Matt, we would be representing, when I came and met with him.
Yeah.
Based on the RFP, and then this allows me to get going.
Right.
And
And it would and we could help by saying, let's get going on this building.
yes.
And, that would give us how long? I mean, not to be scary about it, but we'd have a few weeks, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say a month or so work for you.
Okay.
And then we could, I mean, the critical things up at number 2 are of course the doors.
Right.
You know, that's something. If we're gonna do that, which is in the priority list for them, we should get those in the queue and get somebody lined up, because.
Yeah.
It's June in 2 weeks, and then it's October, as you all know.
Right.
Town meeting a couple of years ago, didn't we talk about changing this boiler? Or I don't know what would be more cost effective. Is this boiler that's in the building, depending on its age, is it worth putting money into versus replacing?
So there's a contradictory in the report. The report says no. But the scope of work that came attached to the grant says yes.
Mhm.
So we can meet the requirements of the grant by stating that we're gonna upgrade
Mhm.
all the controls, providing that you as the owner or the grantee are in agreement with that.
Mhm.
And it looks to me like pumps would have to be upgraded and some other stuff, which is, it's just gonna make it that much more efficient.
Mhm.
They're gonna push gas boilers on everything. which is normal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're doing.
Right,
So we have oil boilers, which are fine. We just need to upgrade them.
right. It's.
What are the controls that upgrade them?
Well, we could go to, they actually call out, they want all smart thermostats. So we would have to have thermostats that talk to the controls, that run the relays, that run the pumps to the boiler and all of that. So it's basically Du Bois and King. If we make that a priority, then we say to Du Bois and King. And I talked to Nick last week, and basically Nick has these one-line diagrams all ready to go. And they did the work for you guys on on these projects, so they could just say to us, look up the history and say, okay, this is what you need to add to that boiler. And so then we would put that out to qualified vendors who would then give us bids, and we'll track the bids if we can get bids. And then have that work done.
I think that's the obvious thing that we should do, which is we're this far in, we've all agreed that we want to pursue this
Yeah.
opportunity. We've got the professional in the room, he's already helping. So I think if we just make that logical step, accept this contractor, verbalize, let's start in this building, give us the few weeks
Yep.
to do better homework. And now that we've got you as a contact, and Matt works every day, we can start, you know, get some more education from you, you know, offline maybe.
Yep.
And make some better decisions, knowing that we'll come back here to make the big ones.
Now, I did put it in the contract till July of next year because this is how they're all gonna go.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is everybody realizes that they have until December or the end of next year to get this done, or everybody's gonna lose their funding.
Right,
There's $35 million out there in the state right now,
right.
so
Yeah, we just didn't get it done.
might as well. I mean, envelopes are the crucial part of any building, so, yeah. And I'm glad that they made that a priority.
All right, does that make sense, Matt?
Yes, it does.
Okay, that makes sense to you guys?
I'm good with it.
Push through it. So we should probably, have you guys, did you see this? Did you look at this at all?
Mm-mm.
This is what the state does mostly, right?
That's right off their website.
Yeah.
Basically, that's their vendor contract. Now, the one thing that they do ask for in these is there needs to be, and there's a place for it in there, needs to be a point of, one person is a point for the town.
Yeah.
3 people sign, because you have 3 select board members.
Yeah.
We need that one person, or I do. And is that gonna be you? Okay. So then we would everything would go through whoever that person is, and then that they would pass that to you, and those decisions would be made.
I didn't see the 3 signature lines on there, but we can,
Right here.
is it on there? I
Yep.
missed it. Good, perfect. So that makes logical sense for him too, right? You got,
Yeah.
For sure.
you all work, Matt, we can. You gotta do this in a hurry though.
Don't worry.
All right, so let's, do you have anything else, or is that a good enough plan for tonight?
That's good for me. Yeah, we can get this signed, and then I'm gonna get going on, starting lining up stuff, and then we need to set up a meeting in a month.
Yep.
And come back, and then I've already started the list. I've got it in my computer, and then we'll just sit here and make it and go.
Be a month from tonight, or no? Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a month from tonight. We
Okay.
meet the 1st and the 3rd Mondays.
Perfect.
We can do something unusual if it's really necessary, but if we can weave them into this meeting, it's best.
Cause we can get going around the building and stuff like that once we get ready.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much.
Motion
Yeah,
that
thank you.
through.
Okay, motion to, you good, Karen?
2 seconds.
Is there an original one for signatures, or are they all the same? We can just. sign
Things are
one.
both the same. Yeah, I'm good.
Motion to accept the contract for is it Rugco?
Roadco, yes.
Rugco Incorporated Construction Management Services and Consultants
Second.
as,
Oh, go ahead.
as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll take one of them and sign them and. Thank you very, very much. That was
Thanks, Larry.
easy to understand.
Yeah,
Good, that's what I was hoping.
yeah, it was very clear.
Okay. Dry hydrants update. Bill?
Did you send that in? Do we have all that information?
No, I haven't.
Check down the bottom just in case.
You got,
You don't have to call me.
you got the email though, right? The dry hydrant email. May not have read it. I didn't wanna over.
Newspaper.
So last year we started, I started some dry hydrant prospecting, I guess. Came out of it with a couple of different things that I would like to try and get movement on. There was some repair stuff that had to happen.
Really,
Okay,
And then there are some looking at new locations. Priority wise, so two of the new locations was doing a bridge mount dry hydrant, which one would be, if you looked at, had got big water come up, and we went and looked at the Webster Road Bridge down by Airport Road, and then the road bridge up here. And while he was up here, they also do, the company from Maryland, they also do townwide assessments. With the repairs list that we got being widely different between Newport and Orleans last year, I felt that it would be a good idea to have them come up and do a townwide assessment, to do a whole report of flow rates and what maintenance might need to be done on them to get them to the appropriate flow rates they should be flowing. And then it also gives us a baseline, since we've got multiple departments in the town taking care of all them, or gives us a baseline to go forward on for maintaining and logging and maintenance and everything, because for the dry hydrant grants, or getting new ones and maintaining, we're supposed to be keeping log of yearly maintenance and flow testing and all that, and that I know it's not been done, so. That for me, if you guys want to, would be a priority to have them come up and do, they would come up, we would just have to line up a truck from Orleans or Newport, probably the highest flowing pumper, which we can figure that out. And he would go around with them to all of our dry hydrants and do testing and check to see what's going on and what can gives a full report on it. The other things he gave was 2 quotes for those bridge mount hydrants. The other location that I was looking at with the state last year was up to replace Briar's dry hydrant, because that has been pulled out because it was not staying full enough in that pond. I'm looking at, is it Mike down the road?
Yeah,
And looked at his pond, which was a very feasible location too. That was and all of these, I think I have started grant applications with the state. We did not run them through with the exception of the repair grant. But because of how that all happened last year and not knowing, we didn't follow through with the full grant process. So what I talked to Troy, the state guy, and we came up with the suggestion of just letting them know we forfeit that grant if we're gonna go through and have them come up and do assessment. Forfeit that grant, get the assessment done, and we'll build a whole new grant off of that assessment to be able to get all the repairs and everything under that.
How many dry hydrants in the town are there? Is there one up off of Hancock Hill?
Six, seven. There, it's Marcot's, Maple Ridge, up at, Jewelry Old Place there.
Oh, yeah,
Meadow Park. Four Corners of the Airport Road. Fishing access. West Road. Spencer Hill too, oh yeah, I forgot.
Where's it at in Spencer Hill?
Up, right by Danny's, isn't it?
Yeah,
That was
with bar covers around that area.
before you get to the cell tower.
So the company that you mentioned that you're thinking about or wondering what we're thinking about on having them come up and do a townwide
Yeah.
assessment,
Got big one.
what's the cost of that?
That would be $4,100. $4,100.
Yeah.
I know it's a thought, we gotta think about it, and talk about it and go through it, but
if we were to do this assessment and then you applied for another grant, would potentially the grant pay that back? No,
no, that'll be just for, there's a percentage of the cost for the materials and labor on repairs. And then you do in kind too. So. A lot of it's gonna be painting, maintenance, and that's the thing that the state grants come up with, you have to have them, make sure you paint them and maintain them, and log and pictures and everything. So it was kind of an idea to be able to get us on a baseline from going forward. Got Big Water is one a lot of them use for maybe pulling those down.
So,
I got in contact with them because of the bird mounts that we started talking about.
Yep.
They would be the ones to do those.
so you know, I always get frustrated.
No, I know, that's why I was asking if you got the email and information that I sent,
I did.
so that's why I wasn't.
So we've been going around and around on these dry hydrants for years now.
Right.
And, so last year we didn't, I got sick of going around and around, so I had Orleans go out and do it.
Well, that got me because you were giving me the ability to go and do that grant, which I got the grant, and then I find out Orleans went around and did a bunch of work, and we weren't following what the grant was that we had, so that's kind of why it's coming up that we have to forfeit.
Right. So what you and I are doing right now is the worst thing that we could do,
Fine.
is sit in a select board meeting and discuss
That way.
our failures.
No, that's fine.
So,
What I was bringing up with this was the assessment. I wanted to move forward with the baseline and bring that information up and whatever.
I'm not prepared to do that
No,
tonight.
and
I will go back and reread the email that you sent. Did you guys get that?
mm-mm.
Matt, can you share that
Yep.
with everybody? So everybody can see that. Let's put this on our next meeting.
It's this?
No,
This is the email.
that email that, okay, that one matches me.
and it'll give us 2 weeks to
Mhm.
read it, think about it. I gotta talk to EJ again. I'm not sure why.
I
those-
talked to them the other day and they had done, what they had done was putting some head adapters on. So, but that's. And that's how it. I talked to them, there's other things that came out that we can talk about how, but. This actually got triggered a little bit from the state too, so.
So one of our challenges, I'm gonna just say it again, and I will make decisions here right off, because I'm kind of done playing with this. We have 2 fire departments, right? We're lucky in one way. So we have very good response times, we have very good professional organizations. We don't have anywhere in writing, I don't believe,
Or hydrants, no.
for hydrants, and that's one of the things that I've been asking for a couple of years now, and we still don't have one, so we're gonna get one. We're not gonna pit one department against another. We're going to talk to them both. We're gonna see who can do it, who wants to do it. There will be requirements to it, whether or not we pay a simple fee for that work or whether it's involved in the contract, doesn't matter. But we can't do what we're doing right now. This is illogical. It's maddening. So let's take a couple weeks, read through what we have for the assessment piece, see what makes sense or what doesn't. I'll try to talk to EJ and I'll try to talk to Newport. And you have at it all you want to educate yourselves or have Matt do that and we'll try to take some steps here, but we gotta resolve this in a much more professional, it should come out reporting in a reporting structure once a year, really. For the board to see it and understand it.
There's been multiple on Scott, so.
I mean, from a contractor, I mean, from a fire department.
Yep.
Giving us some type of a certification that our life-saving apparatus are in working order. And everybody knows and understands that.
That was why I was looking at the assessment, because it said the grants, all these hydrants came in with grants, and we're supposed to have all that information.
Right,
So.
all right.
Can the
Yeah.
fire departments do the assessments like this great big water?
They can, but I think that's where I kind of, like last year was getting, because we had completely two different outcomes from both departments.
No.
So one said some works, one said the other ones didn't work. And it was where I came up with that was to look out for the town to get us on a baseline so we know from a third party. I guess, maybe I'm looking at it wrong and might not be looking at it that the right way, but like you said, to not fit everybody to get against each other. So if we as a town have, well, we have our baseline and we get them all fixed the way they're supposed to be, and then we can go out and build those contracts with those departments based on how they are, and we know what they're working at that period in time to do that. That was my thinking process. So I could be wrong.
Okay, all right. Well, we're closer.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay, local emergency management plan update. Very little has changed. Phil and I have updated it. It just needs to be motioned. It needs to be signed by Scott and then Phil will send it to the state, correct? Very easy.
There's a couple of them that updated.
Yeah, we need a couple phone
We're
numbers.
just in the file.
Yeah,
What's over here?
so
It's on the bottom.
there's a place for Scott to sign, a couple of places, right, two places right in front and on the end.
Yeah, and there's two pages on the back.
Yeah. And
So it was
We
just
need-
administrative cleanup.
Yeah,
And we need this to receive grant funding, so
Right.
don't delay it.
I think it was the official changes with Newport Street and there's one other one.
Praneet.
Praneet, school board chair now, yeah. And Elaine Collins is retiring.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
So I took her name out.
Back to the spending authority and the EMD appointment thing.
So that needs signature too.
Yeah, those two. There's another one that we tend to do every year, which is the DT alert notification, but the names aren't changing, so there's no date and date on there, so as long as it stays the same.
Where'd you say hydrants? I've got 5 of them. I can't think of one of the road names.
So we got Smart Tots,
Yeah,
Maple Ridge, Meadow Park, Spencer Hill, Four Corners, and
Webster. Road.
Webster, and fishing access on Coventry Station.
is there one of those water level meters down on the,
Down on the Black River, right at the fishing access. For Barton River.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one's down there, and then the one for here, the bridge.
Okay. So that'll need motioning.
Make a motion to accept the local emergency management plan as presented.
Second,
All in favor?
I
I,
You,
thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
all right, next up we have Hancock Hill gravel pit parcel. You should have a letter there from the town attorney. Discuss and see if you want to make any changes. You want me to keep it?
It doesn't give me anything.
I didn't get it, I didn't, I haven't read it either.
That just came this morning.
Okay.
Did we want the, because it says if you want to meet, didn't we want to try to have them come here? Or if they don't come here? Because just the way it's written, it says, you know, if you want a
So-
face-to-face meeting.
So there were 2 or 3 things that I noticed. That was one. And I think, well, Brian had wanted to take the opportunity if they would be willing with him
Hmm.
first, which is kind of what that says at the end. What isn't in there, I noticed, was a time frame. We talked
Yeah.
about that, giving them a time frame, whatever that would be,
Mhm.
30 days or 60 days or some reasonable amount of time. And there were maybe 1 or 2 little wording issues that I saw. It wouldn't change the substance of anything.
Mhm.
But I think that's generally what we all discussed. I didn't see anything that made me cringe. Other than I think it is important to get a date.
Mhm.
And I think it's probably, I think it's reasonable thinking for Brian to offer the service with him, you know, outside of a meeting. To see if they can have a better conversation. Not everybody does great with a microphone.
Mhm.
So I was okay with that. It's kind of what we discussed. What'd you see? Did you see anything?
No, I thought it was, pretty heavy handed.
Yeah, I think kind of that's where we are,
Yeah.
right? We're at the point where we've failed.
Yeah.
And we've been given sort of direction to resolve the matter, and now it's looking at June, and
Yep.
it takes time. And so I think the conversation that we all had was, think he's got it there, which that is heavy, but it's gonna cause a reaction. But that's what you need at this point to see what they want to do.
Yep.
I don't know if setting up a meeting with an attorney would scare him too. And then he's got to report back here, it just extends it too. But if they'll do it, we can come up with something. I think we talked about a month or so.
Yeah,
And it would get through a couple, you know, they'd have, because if you get it on right before the second meeting, and you can't go to the second meeting, because we had talked about a meeting, coming to a meeting.
right. Well, I think there'd certainly be leeway there if we heard
Mhm.
from them that they were planning to attend.
If they'd at least contact us,
Right,
contact the town.
yeah, of course. We could always throw Matt in there too.
Yep.
Well, you know, to sort of, go back down there, and you and Brian, I mean, we could do that. We could say and or.
Yep.
But it would need to include Brian,
Mhm.
we're at that level.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
So if we provided the suggestion of giving a time frame. And potentially adding an opportunity if they wanted to include Matt. Whether you do it, however you pull that off.
Yep, so you want me to let Ryan know that,
I think so. I think we should,
and then tell him to mail the letter after I say that?
yeah, I think that's what we would do, right? I think we would probably approve it with those couple of suggestions.
And then send us copies around,
Right, do you want
a finished copy.
copies before it gets mailed out, or no?
As long as he adds what we, just a couple things we want.
Time frame and whether I can be at the
In
meeting.
the time frame, it can't go more than, I don't
It's
know.
like 30
there's
or
a-
45 days.
Yeah.
or-
Certainly not less than 30, and I wouldn't go more than 60, but there may be some legal reason for Brian to,
45 days,
somewhere in there.
Okay.
And, offer your service.
You probably want a motion.
please.
Make a motion to approve the letter from Monahan and Safar to the officers with a couple of noted changes be mailed to them.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Matt.
Okay, next up, we have the town of Coventry purchasing policy. Have a copy of it there. I have added a paragraph on the procurement and usage of government funds. And this came from the state of Vermont. They are, I don't want to use the word forcing, but highly suggesting that every town include this in their purchasing policy if they would like to continue to receive FEMA money or state of Vermont emergency management money.
So all the wording is right from them.
The wording came right from the state of Vermont. They told, well, I made it Coventry, apply to this town, but, the parameters of it was all came right from the state of Vermont. They said, this is what we want to see in your purchasing policy. We're gonna ask to see your purchasing policy every time we give you money. So if we don't see this paragraph in it, you're gonna have some problems.
Mhm.
Everything else is the same. It's just, I just added that.
Mhm.
that
it's
one
just,
section.
it's here, right?
Like here.
So we currently have a purchasing policy.
Right, that's it.
This is it.
Oh,
That is the
But-
town purchasing policy.
Less this part. Everything else is word
Everything
for
else is
word.
the same. All I did was add what the state of Vermont
basically telling us we have
wanted me
that.
to add. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
It's not a new pod, it's not a,
Gotcha.
the old stuff's all still in there.
Gotcha.
It's just got a paragraph now on how, what rules we have to follow when we take money from the federal government or state, or money that goes through the state, from the federal government through the state of Vermont, because that's how most of it works. The federal government pays Vermont and then Vermont pays us, basically.
Makes sense.
We have to, there's certain guidelines and stuff we have to.
This was
follow.
actually noted in our audit too.
This will help with
It's one
that.
of the things that Sullivan had noted in her audit, so. All right,
Make a motion to approve the updated purchasing and reimbursement policy with the adding of the procurement of using state and federal funds.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
that word didn't come out good.
And
Fridge for sure.
there should be places for you guys to sign on there.
And you.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that, man.
Yep, no
Thanks,
problem.
Matt.
It's a good thing to have done.
Okay, so the next thing is along the same vein, the state of Vermont ethics ordinance.
Is this ours or this is the state's new one?
This is the state's new one. So for
You gotta
this
sign
one,
it.
what, oh, yeah, the legislature passed a code of ethics for the entire state of Vermont, which basically replaces our conflict of interest policy. We still have our conflict of interest policy, but this sort of supersedes it.
So should we be looking at removing the conflict of interest?
No, they
policy
said you
that we
don't
have?
need to do that, because she said there's still stuff in your conflict of interest policy that's gonna apply on a town level, but this is basically for the same, it's basically federal and state grant funding or stuff like that. They want towns to pass this ordinance saying that you're not gonna, use your federal money for buying planes and boats and stuff like that, and we're gonna use it for when our roads get destroyed and other stuff, that we're supposed to be using it for. But it has to be handled just like any other ordinance, so I'm gonna have to, put this in the paper, and if people wanna challenge it, then they can challenge it, and we have to go to a town meeting and vote on it. Just like any other ordinance.
So Matt and I talked about that because it hit me the wrong way. And he explained it pretty good. Which is, it seems strange to me. Why we would be pushed into an ordinance. And not a policy. Right? Because that's a much,
Very different thing.
it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's generally because an ordinance has enforcement,
Yes.
whereas policies and procedures, they're more of a guidance tool for us. There's no real teeth if we break them. This will have teeth.
That has teeth.
So what is this saying exactly?
It's saying that they'll prosecute us if we mishandle federal and state money. They'll take us to court.
Which they should.
Right.
And it seems funny that they need an ordinance to do that.
Will be a problem because people have misused federal and state money and they're getting sick of it. So this is statewide. This isn't just Coventry. Every town,
I guess
every
I'm wondering-
town that wants to get people money has got to pass that ordinance.
I guess I'm wondering why they can't prosecute somebody, they don't have an ordinance.
They can, I think. This probably
Makes it easier.
This probably.
If they give
makes
us
it
money for
easier.
roads and we buy a
Right.
plane,
This
why can't
probably
they
makes it
prosecute?
easier.
It is new and unique.
Yeah,
You talked to VLCT.
I talked to VLCT, they said the same thing. They said we're dealing with this in every town and city in Vermont.
And essentially, you don't have to do it.
Nope.
But if you don't do it, you won't be probably getting grants.
Correct.
Can't buy a plane.
Can't buy-
We'll be able to buy a place.
So, I mean, it's a unique thing the state's doing.
Right, they're bullying us, but
Kind of.
kind
I
of,
mean, that's what I
Yeah.
felt that day when I first read it. It's like. But I get it too. I mean, they're tasked with
right, they don't want.
trying to make sure all the towns are on equal footing and everybody's playing by the same rules.
Yeah, the conflict of policy can vary widely from town to town. They wanted a document statewide saying, this is what you're gonna do if we give you money. You're not gonna be able to wiggle out of it with your town conflict of interest policy.
So literally, the ordinance process is just like all the other ordinances. We just did one, or we're doing one now.
We're in the process
And
of
if-
one right now for domestic.
And the
animals.
town could say no,
They could,
because it's not our authority right now.
right,
We would be saying, only thing that we're saying tonight is, yes, Matt, start the process to create the ordinance.
yep,
And then let the floodgates open and you get a bunch of phone calls and people asking what it's about, and you
Yep.
get to do that over and over again, and people could say no.
they could, in which case you'd have to warn a town meeting and then get up there and say, hey, if you want your grant money,
Right?
you better vote this through.
So, I mean, for me, it takes a little of the edge off for tonight.
Yeah,
which is, that's not what we're doing, signing that, we're just saying, okay. We can always stop.
it is. I mean, this
We-
is a
we-
town decision. This is
Right.
not I mean, it is a select board decision, but
Right,
the town gets a chance to
right.
weigh in on this.
You could be the first guy in line to say, no, I don't want it.
Yeah, you can start the petition if you wanted to.
I definitely am gonna look at it a little bit
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's-
ask some more
yeah.
questions, but I don't wanna get in the way that, cause we've got enough time to be able to do that.
Right.
And start the process at the same time.
And we have a lot of money hanging out there that we don't want to get
We do,
taken away from us.
alright.
Yeah, I had some questions, just why they call it a conflict of interest.
Well, they call that a code of ethics. It's basically, we have a conflict of interest policy for the town, but the state of Vermont is saying that they're not, that supersedes it.
Yeah.
They say you can keep your conflict of interest policy, but we're not even gonna look at it. This is the document that we're gonna look at when it comes to giving towns money and how they use it.
Yeah,
Oh.
wow.
So make a motion to accept the Town of Coventry Code of Ethics Investigation and Enforcement Ordinance?
No,
No, that's not what I want.
so we're making a motion to begin the process,
Right.
begin the ordinance process for that.
Yeah, for the Code of Ethics Investigation and Enforcement.
So it's gonna go in the newspaper, it's gonna get posted in our posting spots, so people can read, it's gonna go on the website. And they got 60 days to complain about it if they want to.
Mhm.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Right. Can I have this paper copy, man?
Yep.
I read better on paper than a phone.
absolutely.
Okay, long-term investments. I spoke with both of the references that were provided by Western Investments. Nothing bad to report. They both of the people that were giving us references had been with them for over 10 years. Spoke very highly of them. And, you know, certainly no reason to discount them. And if you're ready to make your decision, then you can make your decision.
Well, outside of that information, you've had a couple months to sleep on the whole thing, Matt, and
Mhm.
you've gotten more time involved than any of us in speaking to everybody, so. Instincts, feeling,
I really like Westview. I've liked them from the beginning, and nothing's changed my mind about them. Right from day one. I think they would do this town a very good service. I think they're what we're looking, I think they're what this select board is looking for as far as financial reporting and long-term investment portfolio. I think they do a good job.
I'm good with them.
Me too. Yeah, I was happy with everything they sent and the conversations we had with them and if we don't like them, we're not locked in. We can start into the process or the next board can start into the process.
I'm there too, I'm comfortable with them, I've met them twice. I like the fact that it's still Fidelity,
Mhm.
so that probably is a smoother transition potentially. I really like the fact that the secondary piece of what we've been asking for years now is the planning piece.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a strong suit for them from what they've told us and shown us. And it will go a long ways, I think, for us here in town to be able to talk about that. So when they left here, they left you a packet.
Right there.
Oh,
David has a,
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I'm just curious if you're going to engage at all with the current investment advisor.
Well, if we make the decision that we're going to make this change, then there'll be an engagement.
That wasn't the purpose of my question. Is there any interest in the board of asking the current person or firm the same set of questions you're asking from the two you've interviewed?
I don't have any, I won't speak for the others. I've tried that myself a few times unsuccessfully. And I've been displeased for a long time on the service. And I don't think we've received what we need to for the town, and I'm not gonna try harder anymore.
Well, I disagree. I think you're painting this as you need to look at the agreement we have with him, which was not at all inclusive of the set of services that you're discussing. It was a bare bones agreement, and it still is, for just basic investing services. But I don't go either way. I just want to make sure that the board is, aware that if you're not asking him for the same set of questions. So when I think the investment performance for the past 6 years, 7 years we've been with him has been right on target with our investment policy.
Duly noted.
I see that, Dave. I really like Westview, and I got good vibes from him and something new to start
It could be a
with what we've been talking about.
it could be a phone call to him. We're gonna, we discussed it at town meeting. We're gonna put a new set of eyes on everything, and if it doesn't work out, then, maybe we'd consider him again.
Right.
Good question.
So the information that they left with you, Matt, was just,
There's a sample contract in there.
there was a sample contract?
Yep.
So where were the other ones? Do we have to wait?
I've also got your current contract is there.
I was gonna say, the
Yeah.
current contract is up.
Okay,
Or
Yeah.
that was my question.
Yes,
It's
but
expired.
that's our current contract with Cadmount right there. And then there's a,
Yeah, March 30th, it expired. Oops, this
I
is.
think it's in the other envelope. And of course, we'll get, if you decide, we'll get an official contract on it.
So you haven't, obviously, no, you haven't had those conversations.
I haven't, no, I was waiting for you guys to make a decision, then I figured I could get that and you could action it at the next meeting.
Okay, so if we accepted them as the new company, then pending contract,
Right.
and let you go out and get that for us to bring back.
And then whatever else needs to, I don't know what, whatever we need to do with Cadmount, I can contact John Henry or whatever, whatever we need to do in the meantime to.
They're gonna know how to do that better,
Oh,
so
yeah.
part of your conversation with them would be,
The transition.
would be that transition piece,
Okay.
yeah. And the contract that we do have with Catamount is expired,
Right.
so we're currently not under a contract. Um,
Dave's got another question.
let me see that sample contract there.
David.
Was it a biggie?
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm not sure I would characterize these agreements as contracts. I think they're just at-will agreements. I don't think there's any period of
Mm.
performance or anything that would lock the town into
Mm.
staying with anybody for any length of time that I'm aware of. Over.
Yeah, because this one definitely didn't have a,
Who else is in that sector there? Seems like we had seen something else at one time. Because they're gonna have to do.
don't be breaking up the joint.
A chair. Oh, Deb's not gonna like that. Oh,
This is what I was looking for, the scope of engagement.
Scope of engagement, yep,
That's
that's what you were referring to.
that's what I was trying to look for.
Yep. Yeah, it's right there.
So let's do the couple things. If the board is in agreement that we're gonna make this change, let's do that.
Yep.
The way we just stated it.
Mhm.
Let's do it with the assumption or with the direction that it'll allow you 2 weeks to work with
Mhm.
Westview to create the proper documents for the transition.
Okay.
I want to sleep on that 1 or 2 more nights too, so don't do it tomorrow.
Okay.
I want to just think about that a little bit and think about, I talked with, the auditor
Mhm.
about a lot of this stuff in our conversations. We talked in executive session twice with Brian
Mhm.
about this stuff. I also will get to, I don't think it's on the agenda tonight, Matt, so maybe I'll put something in other business on a conversation that I had and I think you had with a potential
Yeah, municipal accountant.
a potential municipal accountant.
Yep.
And so some of the information that came out of that conversation was this, regarding this and how municipalities do it best. And so that, all of that information, I think, has to all come together for that scope of engagement.
Yep.
On how the town does the business, who has the authority to do what. It's not proceduralized, but it's a scope of authority and, I think it's fair to say, based on the conversations we've had in executive session and those that we've had with others, that how we're currently conducting the business with long-term investments is going to change. So I need to think through that a night or two, and I want to maybe just talk to Brian or potentially even, excuse me, talk to Westview about that.
Okay.
So I'll do that and then talk to you, and then next meeting, we'll see what they give us, and then we can flush that all out.
Perfect.
Okay.
So we're not doing a motion tonight?
Yes,
We are doing a motion. Okay.
yep, I think we should.
Yep.
So that we can officially have those
Okay.
conversations.
Sounds good.
so what are we doing? Making a motion to transition to Westview investment advisors for the town's investments.
Yep, I think,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
True. That's the one we agreed.
And now we have
So,
I'll make
the
a
highlight of the
Thank
evening,
you.
treasurer's report. David Barlow.
we'll make a copy of whatever that
Mhm.
is.
Well, Matt, with that introduction, how could I, see what I can do here? A little song and dance, maybe? People love the treasurer's report, I'll tell you what. All right, I invite your attention to the April 2025 treasurer's report. Hopefully you've got a copy in front of you. Very normal month for April. I think I discussed last time that we did in fact receive our last revenue check or landfill check for fiscal year 25 in April. You'll see that reflected in the revenue side of the CNB checking account line. It was roughly 459,000 of that 466,945 that's noted as revenue. That's checking account. The expenses, very normal month. Moving on down, you can see specifically what funds had which expenses. General fund, 22,789. Highway fund, 22,390. Looking at the restricted funds, there's actually a decision here to tee up. Doesn't have to be tonight, but just to tee it. The buildings and maintenance fund, there's a revenue shown of $12,465.75. That is interest from a 1-year CD that we had specifically in that fund set up a year ago. And that CD matured and that interest came due. Now that CD was set up prior to consolidating all the different bank accounts we had into one bank account. So I was very much able to look at the interest from that CD and I know exactly where it came from. It came out of the buildings and maintenance fund money. Now the decision is this though, in terms of how to allocate that interest going forward. Now we have just one checking account and one cash management account at Fidelity, and that generates interest and dividends. And the auditors have basically told me 2 ways to do it. One, leave it all in the general fund. Those earnings just stay in the general fund. There you have it. Simple. The other way is to allocate all those earnings into all of the different little funds that we have, particularly the restricted funds. So every month I would get out my spreadsheet and allocate all of the earnings that are in our 2 central cash accounts out to these different funds. 2 ways to do it. I'm much more an advocate of keep it all in one place in the general fund. Just when the monies were allocated by the town to the restricted funds, it was just the specific amounts. There's nothing in the wording that says that the earnings also have to go into that fund, those specific funds. So my recommendation would be to leave the cash earnings that we have, interest and dividends, in the general fund and not further allocate them. And with that, I'll just quickly note that the investment funds, April was a tough month if you looked at any specific day, but it kind of came out evenly. Lots of ups and downs, but in the end, put all together, not much happened. And with that, I'll throw it back for questions.
Thanks, David.
That CD that the $12,000 came from, and did that renew?
No.
So that
So
money,
I quit renewing CDs. It's in the Fidelity Cash Management account. I quit renewing CDs when the interest rates available on CDs is pretty much the same as available from a money market fund. So we get a lot more flexibility from a money market fund because you can get the money whenever you want versus keeping it in CDs. But if there's, if an interest rate differential opens up again, then yeah, I'll look at CDs depending on the term.
so could we put the interest in to the,
So I could reallocate that back into the general fund. But, if you guys want to, if you want me to tee that up differently somehow so you have time to think about it, I realize I'm just throwing that at you tonight. I'm like I said, I'm not expecting a decision. I'm just putting it on the table. There's 2 ways to do interest and dividends. Leave it all in the general fund or allocate it out.
could we reinvest it? Is that an option?
Oh, it is reinvested. No matter what, it's reinvested. Oh, absolutely. That's, that's, that's what I'm doing. That's what treasurers do with
Okay,
the bank accounts.
So we've had that discussion in the past, especially when those funds were held in different accounts. And I think we had some differences of opinions back then because I was one of the ones saying, what are we doing with the interest? Because those amounts of money, the accounting of that money is a voted upon amount in those restricted funds. It's a real dollar figure that the town has allocated for the express purpose of that restricted fund. So monies that it may be earning wherever it may be aren't part of that vote. So it would go to your general fund. For them, for the town to again, take a look at the $12,000 in excess revenue, which we would have next year, that would be part of that, right? And then it would go out to long-term investments. It wouldn't stay in these sorts of investments, because that wasn't a fixed dollar vote. To me, it's a no-brainer. And I think we've lost over the years, probably we've lost some of the accounting on that.
No, it's accounted for. The motions, the warrants are silent on the matter of what to do with earnings, would be my argument. And it's also what the auditors in the past have told me. Which leaves you the leeway to assign it.
So my way of thinking is what I just said, which is the voters approved $1. That's the amount of money that they've approved for the roads and bridges. When the interest comes due and it's $1.05, you're not approved to spend $1.05. You're approved to spend $1. That's what you're approved to spend, not $1.05. So that 5 cents should be accounted for separately, and that revenue from that money should go to the general fund for the taxpayer to take another look at what they want to do with the 5 cents. It doesn't stay there for us to spend. If that makes any sense. I mean,
That makes sense.
that's how
I
I've
think it'd
always
be
looked
easier
at
for
it.
people to see. I mean, they
Yeah,
may not even know that they're gaining interest on it.
right. So I can make the decision tonight for me. I mean, I don't know if you guys are ready, but I mean, for me, it would be general fund.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Dave suggested that. We all feel that way.
Yeah. So what's motion?
Motion to allocate the $12,465.75 to the
Sorry,
general.
can I interrupt just briefly? Can you make it just the general motion that interest earned in town accounts gets allocated to the general fund? It covers everything.
Okay,
Other than long-term investments.
okay. Motion,
So let me put some more words, just cash accounts. Not, that excludes long-term investments. They're not cash accounts.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll motion to send any interest from cash accounts to the general fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All set, Dave? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the town health officer reappointment via state of Vermont. Apparently, we have to do one of these every 3 years. News to me.
It's a state of Vermont.
It's a state of Vermont requirement. They want to know who our health officer is.
They're putting heat on you this week, aren't they, Matt?
Yeah, they are.
And-
I've been getting battered by the state of Vermont for the last 2 weeks.
Pedro's good,
Yeah, Pedro's
Pedro's
already,
good.
he's agreed, and he had to sign a separate piece of paper, and he's already signed his, and we've already sent that to the state, so we're just waiting on this piece from you guys.
So it would be a new appointment, not a reappointment?
I don't think. it
Just what they
matters.
sent, yeah.
It doesn't, they just wanna know the name.
And they have it every 3 years?
This comes to the towns every 3 years.
So I wondered about making everything else is a year, so we
Right.
put everything together, but town doesn't want that. I mean, the state doesn't want that.
Pedro's good with it.
Yep.
So you just motion to sign it.
Time. Motion on it.
Make a motion to reappoint Pedro Grandin, Donald Grandin as the town's health officer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Like,
Very much. Other business this evening.
I got one, well, they don't wanna sit around for us forever.
You just want to sketch for a second.
Wanna wait?
We can wait.
You don't want me to consider?
I can maybe.
All right, well, the other issue that I had was, with this, the part of the accountant that I just started to talk about a little bit.
Sure.
Matt, okay. So. First of all, we should put this on our next meeting agenda.
Okay.
For sure. Going back to, again, all the conversations we've been having about that, all of these financial issues. When I talked with the auditor about his report, we talked about this in executive session, if you remember. And we talked about all finances Coventry and what he, thought of a number of different things, and we talked about an accountant, and he was very much in agreement, right? And so that led to some more discussion around, well, do you know, we need somebody with municipal experience, we need somebody who is hopefully outside of the area, kind of what we've been doing, somebody who's independent, with the skill sets and the right fit for college. And Matt and I talked about it 1 or 2 times, and anyway, he got back to Matt with two
names.
with 2 different people that he knew from his professional work, that he thought, knowing our town, might fit. So Matt reached out and talked with both. Did you talk with both
I
of them?
did speak to both.
Okay, you're ahead of me. I forget all this stuff. So you talked with both of them?
Yeah, one of them wasn't interested, and the other one would like to hear what you guys would like.
Why wasn't one of them interested?
He didn't really say.
No.
He just said, it's not something they're looking to take on at this time.
Okay,
Thank you for calling.
okay.
Very polite.
So Matt did have a conversation with the other person,
Woman,
the
yep,
lady,
yep,
and that went pretty well.
Yeah.
Good enough for you to give me her name.
yep.
And so Matt got she and I to talk, and so I had about a half-hour conversation with her anyway. Last Friday, I think she called me, and it was actually very enlightening. I don't know how it went for you, Matt, but we got into some of the detail. She worked for Sullivan and Powers for a number of years, I think. Several years. She is versed with NEMRIC the accounting software. She works for municipalities. She has done that before. She currently is, I think, UVM's tax accountant, maybe something like that. She's currently living out of state and would have to work remotely. So anyway, a lot of that stuff just, I wanted to get a sense of, how crazy could this look for us? Are we even going down the right path? And I think whether or not we end up inviting her for a larger conversation with all of us, or I don't know, Matt, it's kind of come up to a dead end, right, on searching for others.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly keep looking.
Keep trying.
Yep, but
It's a fairly limited pool.
it's a pretty small pool, and I think you're best taking recommendations from people that know these kind of people,
Yeah.
so I could reach out to our previous auditors, Pace and Holly, they might know
Yeah,
some people that, but I mean, Rick seemed pretty sure that this woman would be able to do what we wanted.
he did.
Where do other names come from? Maybe like the Secretary of State or,
Yeah, I mean,
Or, I don't know
I've
where.
tried VLCT, I mean, there's
Yeah.
there's very few people that do this,
Mhm.
especially around here.
It's a tough one,
Yeah,
because we're looking for somebody with, we're not looking for a staff member. We're looking for a contract service who can do accounting, but with that municipal blend of accounting. And that is what makes it a little bit tougher. So anyway, I think we should put this on the next agenda.
Okay.
I think you should share that name
okay,
and contact with the board, and I think you guys should have an opportunity to do with that what you want. You could give her a call yourself to get a sense of it. You could talk to Matt. You could call Rick. But what happened for me after speaking with her, and I don't remember her name. Sorry. I've been trying to come up with it, but I haven't. Was a lot of what we heard Brian saying, I heard her saying. And a lot of what I heard Rick saying from Sullivan and Powers, I heard her saying. And so they're all talking the same, they're singing the same music. And I think we have to do it. I think we have to do it. So how will we do it is the key now. I think we have to take another educated step on talking with folks that are in the business. That's a good way to say it, Matt, that really know. And then we have to slow down again and talk to Brian again, probably, and then figure out what do we want it to look like. How much do we want to spend? What do we want to spend money on? We do have a treasurer, right? So we're not hiring a treasurer, right? We're looking to hire an accountant. And that's the conversations that we've been having. So let's do that. Let's put it on the next agenda for a couple of weeks, share the name and contact. She did say she would send us along some more information.
Yep.
So you might already have it. I don't know.
I don't have it yet, but.
Yeah.
But we'll have it by the next meeting.
So we can go from there.
Okay.
Dave?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so you've been doing all this in executive session, so I can tell you your financial staff, and there's more than one of me, is in the dark as to what you're trying to do and solve. So at some point it'd be good, it doesn't have to be tonight, but at some point soon, it'd be good if you'd share it with us so we knew what the heck was going on. That's what I got. Thanks. Over.
I think in a nutshell, Dave, what we've been doing is looking at roles and responsibilities of the treasurer and roles and responsibilities of the select board as it comes to financial management. And looking at a lot of the issues that were brought up in the audit this year, remarkably were a lot of the issues that we've been talking about that sort of came back up there. So that led us to more conversations with Rick and more conversations with the town's attorney and around are we conducting ourselves in the financial work that we do the best we can? And I think the consensus is we want to do a little bit better in the accounting world. I think we're probably going to be looking at having that conversation with everybody around all of the roles and responsibilities before we roll those out. But I think that that's what we're doing. We're looking at what does Vermont treasurer, municipal treasurer do, not just for the town of Coventry, but through statute. And I know a lot of towns do it a little bit differently, and that's okay. But we're looking at, we're a wealthy town. We're not a normal town in finance world. And so we want to make sure that we're doing things the best we can. So I think we're looking at upping the game a little bit professionally in the accounting world. I think that's the answer.
I just say, professionally, you normally would include your staff in some of those discussions at least. So I've said my piece. Thank you.
And we've talked about the roles and responsibilities of everybody.
Yeah.
All right, any other business this evening?
You guys got anything?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Just here for presence, basically,
Nice, good.
Thanks for being here.
Yep.
the issues are ongoing. That's all. Nothing's really changed yet.
Few more days, we'll,
Hopefully that changes soon, but.
My question is, can it be contested from this time until it goes into effect by?
We've got till Wednesday,
So 2
Okay.
days.
next week.
Wednesday.
Oh, this Wednesday? I was
Yes.
thinking it was next week.
If I don't have a petition, if Deb doesn't have a petition by Wednesday of this week, then it cannot be challenged.
Okay.
But if they get it in before Wednesday, then it's town meeting time.
And then just out of curiosity, and then what would happen at that point?
These guys would have to warn a special town meeting and the town would get to vote on whether they want.
And then this process like starts over again?
No, they would have to warn a meeting within 30 days of receiving that petition.
Is that a special meeting that the entire town can vote on and be
Yes.
present at?
Yes,
Mhm.
And then after that, it's fine.
and then whatever that vote is.
It's a vote that
It's a
day.
vote
Yeah.
that day. If it gets voted, if it passes, then then we have a domesticated ordinance. If it doesn't, then we don't. But if we don't receive any challenges by Wednesday, then the current ordinance that's out there is enforceable by Monday.
Okay.
Minutes, approval of minutes.
I thought they looked good.
Sounds good, Will.
Yeah, did I get all that
I
stuff
know
right
it
about
is.
the petition and stuff? We got till Wednesday, right?
Great.
What'd you say?
I said, I know the rules.
I think you're correct, based on the date that you had posted it.
Right, it's gotta be 40, they had 44 days, that's Wednesday's the 44th day.
Okay.
Motion to accept the minutes for Town of Coventry Select Board meeting Monday, May 5th, 2025 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. And you got a folder full of notes there.
Anything weird?
Mm-mm.
No.
Make a motion to accept the warrant as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait,
Okay, that'll do it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Good job, everybody.
Thanks, Matt.